Emily moved through the airport with the practiced grace of someone who had spent over a decade navigating the fast-paced, often chaotic world of commercial aviation. Her uniform was crisp, her demeanor calm and assured, qualities that had earned her respect from colleagues and passengers alike. She was known not only for her efficiency but also for her steady presence during emergencies, able to soothe worried travelers and manage crises with a clear head. Yet beneath the polished exterior, Emily carried burdens that no one on the plane could see. Her son, Daniel, was battling a serious health condition, a reality that shadowed every moment of her life. Managing his medications, doctor's appointments, and the emotional weight of his illness was a constant challenge, especially with the unpredictable schedule her job demanded. She strove to create a sense of normalcy for Daniel, to shield him from the instability her career sometimes imposed, but it was a delicate balancing act. That morning, as she prepared for a routine international flight, Emily's mind was already half at home. After a brief check-in with Daniel, ensuring his medication was taken and his needs were met, she steeled herself for the hours ahead. The routine was familiar, yet the weight of her responsibilities never lightened. Boarding began, passengers filed in with varied expressions, some excited, some anxious, all reliant on the crew to keep them safe and comfortable. The flight took off smoothly, the hum of the engines and the steady ascent into the sky a backdrop to Emily's usual duties. She moved through the cabin, attending to passengers' needs with practiced ease. But as the plane reached cruising altitude, an unsettling sensation crept over her. A wave of dizziness washed through her, and the world seemed to tilt slightly. Emily steadied herself against the overhead compartment, willing the sensation to pass. She was no stranger to managing her own health. She had taken medication earlier that morning for a chronic condition she rarely discussed. But now, the side effects were overwhelming. Her vision blurred momentarily, and her legs felt weak. The confidence she usually exuded began to falter as she fought to maintain control. Just then, a commotion erupted near the back of the cabin. A passenger was causing a disturbance, raising his voice, refusing instructions. Emily's training kicked in, she knew how to handle such situations. But her body betrayed her. The dizziness intensified, and her movements became sluggish. She struggled to approach the passenger, but a sudden wave of weakness forced her to retreat momentarily. Her colleagues noticed the change. Concern flashed in their eyes as Emily, normally the pillar of calm, wavered. One flight attendant discreetly stepped closer, ready to assist. Emily's mind raced. She needed help, but pride and duty made it difficult to admit vulnerability. Still, the reality was undeniable, she was not at full strength, and the safety of the passengers depended on her being able to perform. As the disturbance escalated, Emily knew she had to act decisively. She reached the intercom and called the cockpit, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She informed the captain of her condition and the situation in the cabin, requesting a medical emergency landing at the nearest airport. The captain acknowledged, his tone calm but urgent. The decision marked a turning point. Emily's professional facade had cracked, revealing the human beneath a woman grappling with her own limits while striving to protect others. The plane began preparations for an emergency descent, and the cabin crew moved into heightened readiness. As the aircraft shifted course, Emily sat down briefly, taking deep breaths to steady herself. The fear and uncertainty gnawed at her, but so did a quiet determination. This was her moment to confront her vulnerabilities and ensure everyone on board remained safe. Her thoughts briefly returned to Daniel, to the life waiting for her on the ground, a life filled with love, challenges, and hope. Emily knew the coming hours would test her in ways she hadn't anticipated, but she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The sky might be vast and unpredictable, but so was her resolve to rise above. Emily's world unraveled in slow, torturous moments as she felt the first sharp pangs of illness creeping through her body. The airplane's hum, once a steady, comforting background to her work, now seemed distant and muffled. She fought to stay upright, to maintain the professional composure that had always defined her role. But as the symptoms worsened, clarity gave way to confusion. The vibrant woman who had commanded the skies suddenly found herself battling the limits of her own fragile health. Recognizing the severity of her condition, Emily quickly made the difficult choice to alert the flight crew and the captain. Her voice, strained but resolute, conveyed the urgency. She needed to step away, to seek medical care and rest, leaving the flight's safety and operation in the hands of her trusted colleagues. It was a moment heavy with sacrifice and anxiety, a moment where duty and vulnerability collided. The transition wasn't seamless. Though the crew had been trained for emergencies, Emily's absence was more than a matter of shifting responsibilities. It was a loss felt deeply by everyone on board. Passengers remained unaware of the crisis simmering just beneath the surface, their conversations and movements oblivious to the tension threading through the cabin. Yet among the crew, the energy was taut and watchful. They moved with a cautious urgency, balancing the demands of their roles with the weight of knowing their colleague was unwell. Confined now to the cramped quarters designated for crew rest, Emily felt the full force of her isolation. The effects of the medication prescribed for her condition washed over her: drowsiness, dizziness, waves of nausea, each symptom a cruel reminder of her vulnerability. Her body betrayed her, leaving her drained and fragile. The sterile walls of the crew room closed in, amplifying the emotional turmoil swirling within her. She was away from the cockpit, removed from the action, yet tethered by a growing storm of worry. Her thoughts raced relentlessly toward Daniel, her young son, miles away and facing his own medical battle. Emily's mind was torn between the present crisis and the gnawing fear for him. She knew his condition had been stable until recently, but now things were deteriorating. The routine that had kept him safe, his medication, the care from familiar hands, was disrupted. He struggled to manage on his own, feeling the confusion and fear that often accompanied his condition. Daniel's attempts to reach Emily added another layer of distress. His calls went unanswered, her phone was off, shielded by the demands of the flight and her own incapacity. Back in the cabin, the flight crew carried on with determination. They worked to maintain the smooth operation of the plane, their professionalism a testament to their training and camaraderie. Still, Emily's absence was palpable. Her colleagues shared quick glances, unspoken concern flickering in their eyes. The crew understood that the situation was more than logistical, it was deeply personal. The bonds forged through shared challenges made Emily's struggle their own. Emily's internal battle intensified. She was caught in a vicious cycle of guilt and helplessness. Her mind kept circling between the passengers whose safety she had once overseen and her son, who needed her desperately. The dual responsibilities weighed heavily, each pulling her in different directions. The woman who had prided herself on strength and reliability felt herself fracturing under the pressure. Tears threatened, but she swallowed them down, unwilling to let the crisis consume her entirely. The airplane neared its destination, and with each passing minute, Emily's anxiety swelled. The thought of what awaited her on the ground, Daniel's condition, the unknown that loomed, tightened the grip on her chest. Yet, amidst the chaos, a spark of resolve began to flicker. She refused to be defined by weakness. Though her body rebelled, her spirit summoned the strength to face what lay ahead. Slowly, deliberately, Emily made the decision to take charge again. She could no longer remain confined, passive in the crew quarters. The flight needed her, and more importantly, she needed to fight for her family and herself. Drawing on every ounce of courage, she pushed past the haze of medication and exhaustion. Her steps were unsteady as she left the solitude of the crew room and returned to the heart of the aircraft. Re-entering the cabin, Emily was met with the familiar yet daunting environment of responsibility. The medical emergency that had precipitated her withdrawal had not vanished, in fact, it had become more complicated. Passengers whispered nervously, and the crew moved with a heightened sense of urgency. Emily's presence, though weakened, brought a steadying influence. Her voice, though softer than usual, carried the authority and calm reassurance needed in the moment. Despite her compromised condition, Emily began coordinating efforts to manage the medical situation. She worked alongside the crew, relaying information, calming fears, and directing resources. Every interaction was a battle against her own physical limits, but she persisted, driven by the knowledge that her role was indispensable. The chapter unfolds with a portrait of resilience amid vulnerability. Emily's journey through illness, separation, and mounting pressure reveals the complex interplay between human frailty and inner strength. Her story is not just about survival, but about reclaiming agency in the face of adversity. As the plane descends toward its destination, the tension remains high, but so does Emily's determination, a testament to the enduring spirit that refuses to yield, even when falling through the clouds. Emily's world spirals as the situation with her son Daniel becomes increasingly urgent. His health deteriorates rapidly, and though miles away, the weight of his condition presses heavily on her mind. She tries to maintain her composure, committed to fulfilling her responsibilities as a flight attendant, but her heart is tethered to the thought of Daniel's suffering. Each time she catches herself drifting into worry, she refocuses on the cabin, attending to passengers' needs with a smile that masks her inner turmoil. As the flight progresses, the physical toll on Emily intensifies. She experiences waves of dizziness that grow stronger with every step she takes along the aisle. At one point, she nearly collapses, catching herself against a seat just in time. Concerned crew members urge her to sit down, fearing that pushing herself further could endanger both her and the passengers. Despite their pleas, Emily refuses to step back. She is caught between her body's demands and her unwavering determination to remain present and useful during the flight. Sitting idly is not an option she can accept, not while her son needs her, and the passengers rely on her expertise. On the ground, the crisis deepens. Daniel's caretaker, realizing the gravity of his condition, urgently attempts to reach Emily. Multiple calls go unanswered, leaving the caretaker frustrated and anxious. The disconnect heightens the sense of helplessness surrounding the situation. Every unanswered phone call is another moment lost, another opportunity slipping away to intervene quickly. Meanwhile, Emily remains unreachable, consumed by the pressing duties on board and the worsening symptoms that confine her. Compounding the already fraught atmosphere on board is the sudden emergence of a new emergency. Mr. Fitzgerald, a passenger who had been quietly sitting for much of the flight, begins exhibiting alarming behavior. His complexion pales, and his movements grow erratic, signaling a possible medical crisis. The flight crew quickly shifts into action mode, coordinating efforts to assess and stabilize him. For Emily, this is a double blow: the mental and emotional strain of her son's condition combined with the immediate, visible distress happening mere feet away creates an overwhelming storm of stress and fatigue. Despite her weakened state, Emily chooses to intervene. She steps forward, relying on her training and years of experience, even as her body protests. The sight of a fellow human in distress awakens a sense of duty that refuses to be silenced by her own pain. She assists the crew with calming Mr. Fitzgerald and monitoring his symptoms, all the while battling her own faltering strength. Her dual roles as a mother far away from her child in crisis and as a professional responsible for the safety of strangers clash in her mind, intensifying her internal conflict. As the situation with Mr. Fitzgerald deteriorates, the passengers begin to sense the growing tension. Whispers ripple through the cabin, eyes darting nervously toward the commotion. The once calm flight atmosphere transforms into a breeding ground for anxiety and fear. Some passengers express their concerns openly, asking questions and seeking reassurance, while others retreat into silence, gripped by uncertainty. The crew, stretched thin and exhausted, works diligently to manage both the emergency and the passengers' rising unease, but the absence of the senior flight attendant, often the key figure in crisis situations, is deeply felt. Emily's emotional struggle becomes increasingly visible, even if she tries to conceal it. Her concern for Daniel intertwines with the immediate demands of her job, creating a psychological maelstrom. She feels torn between two worlds, one where her son's life hangs in the balance and another where her professional responsibility dictates she maintain control and composure. The physical symptoms she experiences mirror this turmoil: fatigue, dizziness, and a creeping sense of vulnerability that threatens to overwhelm her entirely. At the same time, a sobering realization dawns on Emily. Her body and mind have limits that she can no longer ignore. The heroism of pushing through pain and exhaustion, once a source of pride, now feels dangerously unsustainable. The need to prioritize her health and emotional well-being clashes sharply with her instincts as a caregiver, both to her son and the passengers. The gravity of this dilemma weighs heavily, forcing her to confront the possibility that she may have to make an impossible choice, one that could alter the course of her life and those around her. In the face of mounting pressure, Emily's thoughts drift between hope and despair. She imagines herself at home, holding Daniel, reassuring him and herself that everything will be all right. But reality pulls her back. She is still hundreds of miles away, confined within the narrow space of the aircraft cabin, responsible for dozens of lives. The tension between these two realities creates a suffocating sense of helplessness. The chapter closes with Emily physically weakened and mentally strained, caught in the crossfire of competing demands that threaten to break her resolve. Her vulnerability is palpable as she contemplates the decisions ahead, decisions that could redefine her role as a mother, a professional, and a human being. The impossible choice looms large: to stay and continue fighting in the moment, risking her own collapse, or to step back, potentially jeopardizing the safety of others but preserving herself for the battle waiting on the ground. This moment of profound uncertainty encapsulates the rising stakes of her journey, revealing the raw and painful cost of love and responsibility when worlds collide. Emily's fingers trembled as she clutched the small device in her hand, the urgent message from the flight dispatcher flashing insistently on the screen. Daniel's condition had worsened, and he was being rushed to the hospital. The words hit her like a physical blow, stealing the breath from her lungs and sending her heart into a frantic rhythm. Daniel, her son, was sick, seriously sick, and she was hundreds of miles away, thousands of feet above the ground, confined to a narrow cabin where every second counted for reasons she barely understood herself. Panic threatened to overtake her, but Emily forced herself to breathe deeply, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions inside. She was a flight attendant, trained for crises, for emergencies that demanded calm and quick thinking. Yet, this was different. This was personal. Her heart ached with a pain she had never known before, and suddenly, the polished professionalism she wore like armor felt fragile and thin. Her eyes flicked around the cabin, catching the concerned glances of her fellow crew members and the murmurs of passengers sensing the tension. The routine she had maintained so carefully was unraveling. She struggled to focus on her duties, but her mind was clouded with images of Daniel, his pale face, the hospital lights, the unknown risks. She fumbled slightly as she prepared a drink for a passenger, hesitated when asked a question, and the hesitation did not go unnoticed. A fellow attendant approached quietly, concern etched across her face. "Emily, you should sit down. You need a moment." Emily shook her head, fighting back tears. "I can't. Not yet." But inside, the battle raged. The flight had suddenly become a cage, trapping her between the professional obligation she had sworn to uphold and the primal need to be with her son. Every announcement over the intercom, every movement of the plane seemed distant and surreal. She felt powerless, unable to reach Daniel, unable to do anything but wait. Then, the unmistakable alarm of a medical emergency pierced the cabin. The passengers exchanged worried glances. The crew scrambled to assist a man who had collapsed in the aisle, but Emily's attention was elsewhere. Her hands clenched the armrests as she fought to steady herself, the weight of her situation pressing down like a stone. The captain's voice came over the speakers, calm but serious. "We're monitoring the medical situation on board and will make decisions to ensure everyone's safety." Emily's gaze locked with the captain's as he approached her near the back of the plane. His expression was one of understanding tempered with professional caution. She knew what she had to do, though the cost was high. "Captain," she said quietly but firmly, "I need to request an emergency landing." There was a moment of silence, a flicker of hesitation, but then he nodded. "Understood, Emily. We'll make the necessary arrangements." The decision rippled through the crew, eliciting a mixture of surprise and respect. It wasn't an easy call. Diverting a flight carried complications, delays, logistical challenges, and the uncertainty of where they would land. But Emily's resolve was unmistakable. As the plane adjusted its course, Emily took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. She moved through the cabin, offering smiles and reassurances that felt hollow even to her own ears. Her colleagues worked seamlessly around her, but she felt detached, caught between two worlds. In those tense hours, Emily's mind wrestled with the gravity of what she had chosen. She recalled the promises she had made to be there for Daniel, to protect him no matter what. The job she loved, the routines and responsibilities, suddenly paled in comparison to the fierce love that anchored her. The emotional weight of the moment brought a rare clarity. No matter what happened next, whether the flight landed safely, whether Daniel's condition improved, the truth was undeniable: family came first. The sacrifices she had made, the compromises endured, all converged into this singular purpose. As the plane descended toward the emergency landing site, the cabin quieted, passengers sensing the gravity but unaware of the full story. Emily's hands rested lightly on the armrest, her breath steadying. She stared out the window at the darkening horizon, a mixture of hope and fear swirling inside her. In that suspended moment, she understood that the path ahead was uncertain, but the choice to prioritize her son had already defined her. The cost of playing the role expected of her had reached its limit. Now, she was stepping into a new chapter, one where promises were kept not to an employer or a stranger, but to the most important person in her life. The plane's wheels touched down with a gentle thud, and Emily braced herself for what was to come. She had made a decision that would change everything, and though doubts lingered, she knew deep in her heart that she had done what was right. The plane's emergency landing is met with a mixture of relief and tension. As the aircraft settles safely on the runway, the immediate danger has passed, but the atmosphere inside remains heavy with unease. The crew springs into action, moving swiftly to reassure passengers who are visibly shaken by the ordeal. Some clutch their seats tightly, others whisper nervously to loved ones, and a few quietly weep. Amid the carefully orchestrated calm, there is an undercurrent of fear and uncertainty that the crew must manage with professionalism and empathy. Emily, however, finds herself detached from the routine post-landing procedures. While the crew attends to passenger needs and coordinates with ground personnel, her mind is consumed by thoughts of Daniel. News of his condition weighs heavily on her, eclipsing every other concern. When the opportunity arises for her to leave the plane and be by his side, she seizes it without hesitation. The flight attendants offer quiet support, understanding that Emily's priorities have shifted irrevocably. As Emily hurries through the corridors of the airport, the sounds of bustling travelers and urgent announcements fade into the background. Her focus narrows to the hospital where Daniel is being treated. The journey there becomes a moment of intense reflection, a time to revisit the choice she made earlier, when she chose her son's well-being over her professional obligations. The decision, though clear in hindsight, was fraught with tension and self-doubt at the moment it was made. But now, racing against time and fear, Emily feels a profound certainty that her place is by Daniel's side. Upon arriving at the hospital, relief washes over her as she sees Daniel resting in a hospital bed, stable for the moment. The sterile environment, with its quiet beeps and muted footsteps, contrasts sharply with the chaos of the emergency landing. Yet the sense of calm is fragile, underscored by the knowledge that Daniel's recovery will be neither quick nor simple. The weight of uncertainty presses down on Emily, but she is grounded by the presence of her son, alive and fighting. In the days that follow, Emily's dual roles as a mother and a flight attendant become increasingly difficult to balance. The demands of her job pull her in one direction, while her heart and responsibilities tug her in another. Guilt surfaces repeatedly, the guilt of missed shifts, of not being there every moment for Daniel, of wondering if she could have done more. The conflict between career and family is laid bare in stark terms, forcing Emily to confront the limits of what she can manage. Despite these struggles, Emily's commitment to her family deepens. The crisis has peeled away distractions and superficial concerns, revealing the core of what truly matters to her. Her love for Daniel, the connection they share, and the preciousness of time together become her guiding lights. She begins to understand that her role as a mother is not just an aspect of her life, it is the foundation upon which all else must be built. The flight crew, meanwhile, continues to perform their duties with professionalism, but there is a growing awareness of Emily's emotional state among her colleagues. Some offer quiet words of encouragement, others give her space to process her feelings. This support, though subtle, reminds Emily that she is not alone. The solidarity of the team becomes a small comfort amid the personal storm she faces. Emily's reflections deepen as she contemplates the broader implications of the experience. The emergency and its aftermath have challenged her sense of identity and priorities, forcing a re-evaluation of what she values most. The tension between duty and devotion, once a source of inner conflict, begins to resolve into a clearer understanding. She realizes that true strength lies not in perfect balance but in the willingness to adapt and choose love when the stakes are highest. As the chapter progresses, Emily's resolve solidifies. Standing by Daniel's bedside, she embraces the uncertainties of the road ahead with a quiet determination. The experience has transformed her perspective, teaching her that the roles she plays in life are not in opposition but can coexist when anchored by love and purpose. She acknowledges that the journey will be difficult, filled with moments of doubt and hardship, but she is ready to face them. The chapter concludes with Emily's awareness that the crisis has irrevocably changed her. She no longer measures success by career achievements or societal expectations but by the strength of her bond with Daniel and the quality of the time they share. This realization brings a profound sense of peace amid the ongoing challenges, as she stands grounded in love and ready to navigate whatever comes next. Emily found herself caught between two relentless pressures that seemed to pull her apart: her devotion to her son Daniel and the mounting scrutiny from her employer. The emergency landing, an act driven by instinct and a mother's fierce protectiveness, had thrown her professional world into chaos. The airline's investigation was thorough and unyielding, and with every passing day, the threat of losing her job loomed larger. What once felt like a stable career now wavered precariously under the weight of uncertainty. Physically, Emily was drained. The demands of her job were grueling even without the added stress. Long shifts, irregular hours, and the constant vigilance required as a flight attendant had always taken their toll, but now, with Daniel's fragile health requiring her attention, the exhaustion cut deeper. Nights were spent divided between worry for her son's recovery and restless thoughts about the future. Each morning brought the heavy realization that she had to be strong in two worlds: at home as a mother and at work as a professional, neither offering much reprieve. Isolation became a constant companion. Among her colleagues, Emily felt increasingly distant. While they sympathized with her situation, they couldn't fully grasp the emotional turmoil she endured, nor the constant balancing act between her son's care and her job responsibilities. The camaraderie that once provided comfort began to dissolve into a polite distance, as if her crisis set her apart in a way that was difficult to bridge. At the airline, the attitude was less empathetic. Her emergency decision was scrutinized as a procedural breach rather than an act of maternal instinct, and official communications felt cold and clinical. The company's focus on rules and reputation left little room for understanding her personal struggle. Daniel's condition remained fragile. Though his recovery showed progress, there were no guarantees, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on Emily's heart. Each doctor's visit, each update on his health felt like a knife twisting inside her. Hope mingled with fear, and every small setback felt like a personal failure. Her role as his primary caregiver was both a source of strength and deep anxiety. She wanted to be there for him fully, to provide comfort and care without distraction, but reality demanded she also maintain her job, a task that now seemed increasingly impossible. At work, Emily grappled with growing doubts. The job she had once loved now felt like a source of conflict rather than fulfillment. The physical and emotional toll combined with the threat to her livelihood created an overwhelming sense of helplessness. She questioned whether she could continue to meet the demands of a profession that left so little room for her personal crisis. The airline's investigation was a constant reminder that her actions were under a microscope, that any misstep could mean the end of her career. Guilt was a heavy burden she carried. Every moment away from Daniel was laced with remorse. She found herself torn between two equally important roles, feeling she was failing at both. The image of her son's small face, vulnerable and in need, haunted her during long hours at work. At home, the anxiety about her job's uncertain future chipped away at her peace. This internal conflict wore on her spirit, leaving her emotionally exhausted and questioning her own strength. In moments of quiet reflection, Emily considered the sacrifices she had already made. She thought about the nights she had spent awake by Daniel's side, the times she had missed social events or personal rest to tend to his needs. She recognized the toll that this relentless juggling act had taken, not just physically, but on her sense of identity and well-being. The notion of leaving her job, once unthinkable, began to surface as a possibility. The idea of dedicating herself fully to Daniel's care offered a bittersweet kind of relief, though it came with fears about financial security and personal fulfillment. This crossroads left Emily feeling vulnerable but also contemplative. She wrestled with the practical realities and emotional consequences of such a decision. Could she let go of the career that had defined her for years? Would stepping away mean losing a part of herself, or could it open space for new forms of strength and purpose? The future was uncertain, but what was clear was the depth of her love and commitment to her son. As the chapter closed, Emily sat quietly, absorbing the full weight of her situation. The sacrifices she had made and those she might still face loomed large in her thoughts. Yet beneath the weight of doubt and fear, a quiet resolve began to take shape. Whatever the future held, Emily knew she would face it with the fierce determination of a mother's love, ready to carry the burden and make the sacrifices necessary to protect her son's well-being, even if it meant redefining her own path. Emily sat quietly in the small apartment she had made into a safe haven for her and her son. The steady hum of the city outside contrasted sharply with the stillness within these walls, a place where her world had shifted dramatically over the past months. Her son's recovery had become the center of her existence, a journey filled with uncertain steps, hopeful progress, and moments that tested her strength. It was clear now that balancing the demands of her career as a flight attendant with the needs of her son was no longer sustainable. The decision to take a leave of absence was born from this recognition, a choice made out of love, necessity, and a fierce determination to prioritize what truly mattered. The thought of stepping away from the adrenaline-fueled life she had embraced for years was bittersweet. Aviation had been more than a job to Emily, it was a part of her identity. The excitement of soaring through the skies, the camaraderie with crew members, and the constant movement had shaped her in profound ways. Yet, as she contemplated the road ahead, she knew that putting this chapter on pause was the sacrifice she had to make. Her son's health was paramount, and every moment she could spend focused on his recovery was invaluable. Just as Emily was settling into this difficult acceptance, an unexpected opportunity arose. The airline, recognizing her dedication and experience, offered her a new role, a coordinator position within the company. Unlike her usual flights that demanded constant travel and irregular hours, this role would be grounded in the office. It promised a flexible schedule and the chance to remain connected to the aviation world, albeit from behind the scenes. This offer presented a delicate compromise. On one hand, it was a departure from the life she loved, the skies she was so accustomed to navigating. On the other hand, it was a chance to maintain her professional identity while gaining the flexibility that her family situation required. Emily weighed the pros and cons carefully. The coordinator role wouldn't carry the thrill of the cabin or the direct interactions with passengers, but it would offer stability, a foundation she desperately needed. As she mulled over the decision, Emily experienced a mixture of emotions. There was relief at finding a way to stay involved in her career without sacrificing her son's needs. There was also anxiety about change, about moving into unfamiliar territory and letting go of a role that had defined her for so long. The fear of losing her sense of self battled with the rational understanding that this new path could lead to growth and balance. The turning point came during a quiet moment with her son. Sitting beside him, she gently explained the changes ahead, not just the leave of absence, but the new coordinator position that might become her next chapter. She spoke honestly about the challenges and reassured him that, no matter what, they would face everything together. His small hand in hers was a tangible reminder of why she was making these sacrifices and what strength they both carried within. This conversation brought clarity. Emily realized that courage wasn't only about soaring above the clouds, sometimes it was about grounding oneself to nurture and protect what was most precious. Her decision was not a retreat but a strategic pivot, a flight of courage into uncharted territory, guided by love and resolve. With renewed determination, Emily accepted the coordinator role. The transition required adjustments, learning new skills, and embracing a different pace of life. She began to see the value in her behind-the-scenes contributions, the intricate coordination that kept flights running smoothly, the problem-solving that ensured passenger satisfaction, and the teamwork that extended beyond the cabin. This role allowed her to stay connected to the community she cared about, offering a new kind of fulfillment. Her son's recovery progressed steadily, and the balance she sought gradually took shape. Emily found moments of peace amid the demands, drawing strength from the knowledge that she was present for the milestones that mattered most. The flexible schedule meant she could attend appointments, provide support, and be fully engaged in his healing journey. Though the path ahead remained uncertain and challenging, Emily's acceptance of her new role marked a turning point. She embraced the understanding that life's trajectories are rarely linear and that sometimes the bravest choices involve letting go of familiar heights to build something new on solid ground. In this chapter of her life, Emily redefined success not by the miles flown or the destinations reached but by the love and commitment she poured into her family and the adaptability she showed in pursuing her career in a new way. Her journey reflected a profound truth: true courage lies in the willingness to change course when it means protecting and nurturing what truly matters. As she prepared to navigate this next phase, Emily felt a quiet confidence. The road would be difficult, yes, but she was not walking it alone. With her son by her side and a renewed sense of purpose, she stepped into her role as coordinator with hope and resolve. This flight of courage was not the end of her story but the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by resilience, love, and the power of embracing change. Emily stepped into her new role at the airline with a mix of anticipation and determination. Leaving behind the familiar routines of her previous position was a challenge, but she embraced the change with a renewed sense of purpose. This new chapter in her career offered a different perspective, one that allowed her to blend professional responsibilities with the demands of motherhood, a balance she had long sought but struggled to find. Each day presented its own set of obstacles, yet Emily met them with resilience, adapting to the rhythms of her evolving life. Adjusting to the new role was not without its difficulties. The learning curve was steep, and the pace sometimes overwhelming. Yet, Emily found satisfaction in the tangible impact she could make within the airline, even if it wasn't the path she had originally envisioned. Her work involved coordinating teams, streamlining operations, and fostering communication tasks that required patience, insight, and empathy. Through these efforts, she discovered a new way to contribute, one that aligned with her values and allowed her to grow professionally. At home, Daniel's health steadily improved, a source of immense relief and joy for Emily. Their relationship deepened as they navigated this period of healing together. The experience forged a stronger bond between them, marked by mutual support and renewed hope. Emily found comfort in these moments, drawing strength from their connection as she balanced the complexities of her work and personal life. Within the airline, Emily's dedication did not go unnoticed. Colleagues admired her commitment and adaptability, often seeking her guidance and support. Her perseverance became a quiet beacon of strength, inspiring others facing their own challenges. Emily's story was one of transformation, not just surviving adversity, but thriving despite it. Her ability to remain steadfast and optimistic resonated throughout the workplace, subtly shifting the company culture toward greater empathy and collaboration. The airline began to recognize Emily's potential beyond her current duties. Opportunities for advancement and professional development emerged, signaling a new level of trust and investment in her abilities. These prospects brought a sense of empowerment that had been missing when she was confined to her previous role in the air. Emily embraced these possibilities, viewing them as affirmations of her resilience and growth. The path ahead, while different from what she had once imagined, was rich with promise and personal fulfillment. Balancing the demands of work and family remained a delicate dance, but Emily grew more confident in managing both. She developed routines and strategies that supported her well-being and allowed her to be present for Daniel and their future together. This equilibrium was hard-won, a testament to her strength and adaptability. The chapter captures this triumph, a moment where professional achievement and personal contentment converge. As the narrative draws to a close, Emily stands firmly grounded in her new reality. The uncertainties that once loomed large have given way to stability and hope. Her journey reflects a profound evolution, shaped by perseverance and a willingness to embrace change. With Daniel's health improving and her career on an upward trajectory, their shared future looks brighter than ever. This chapter marks not just an ending, but the beginning of a sustained period of growth, resilience, and renewed possibility. Emily's decision to change careers was driven by a deep desire to create a better life for her family, and as time passes, it becomes increasingly clear that this choice was the right one. The upheaval and turmoil of her past, marked by stress, uncertainty, and relentless pressure, gradually give way to a newfound sense of peace and stability. In stepping away from her former life, Emily not only reclaims control over her professional path but also nurtures the personal relationships that truly matter, particularly with Daniel. Their relationship, once strained under the weight of stress and external challenges, begins to flourish. Through honest communication, mutual support, and shared dreams for the future, Emily and Daniel rediscover a deep connection that strengthens the foundation of their family. The hardships they endured together serve not as scars but as stepping stones, building resilience and a more profound understanding of one another. They learn to navigate life's uncertainties as a team, embracing the unpredictability with hope rather than fear. Emily's new role with the airline offers her a fresh start, a career that, while demanding in its own way, aligns more closely with her values and aspirations. The change brings not only professional growth but also emotional fulfillment. Unlike before, where work consumed her with relentless stress, her current position allows her to find balance and satisfaction. She feels empowered, knowing her contributions matter and that she is part of an organization that values her skills and dedication. This professional contentment spills over into her personal life, creating a harmony that had once seemed elusive. With the past crisis behind her, the heavy weight of anxiety and exhaustion begins to lift. Emily embraces each day with renewed energy and optimism. The calming rhythm of her new life fosters emotional healing, allowing her to shed the shadows of doubt and fear that once clouded her mind. She cultivates a sense of mindfulness and presence, appreciating the small, everyday moments that bring joy and meaning, whether it's a shared meal with Daniel, a quiet walk, or the laughter of their children. Emily recognizes that the journey to this place was neither quick nor easy. It demanded courage to step away from what was familiar and safe, even when it meant facing uncertainty. She confronted her fears and insecurities head-on, learning to trust in herself and her instincts. This growth strengthens her resolve, deepening her confidence in her decisions and her ability to adapt to whatever lies ahead. Her family, once fractured by external pressures and internal doubts, now thrives in this new chapter. They have become a unit defined by love, understanding, and mutual respect. Emily's choice to prioritize her family's well-being over career ambition does not diminish her, it enriches her life and theirs in profound ways. Together, they build a home filled with warmth and support, a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world. The transformation in Emily's life also reflects a broader theme of finding balance amid life's demands. She learns that success is not solely measured by professional achievements or societal expectations but by the quality of relationships and the presence of peace in one's heart. This realization brings her a sense of fulfillment that transcends external validation. Throughout this period, Emily continues to nurture her relationship with Daniel, deepening their bond through shared experiences and open dialogue. They celebrate their victories, support each other through challenges, and cultivate a partnership grounded in trust and love. This renewed connection provides a steady anchor amid life's uncertainties, reminding them both that home is not just a physical space but a feeling of belonging and acceptance. The chapter concludes with a quiet, intimate moment between Emily and Daniel at home, a scene that encapsulates the essence of their journey. In the soft glow of the evening, they sit together, content and connected, aware that the path ahead may hold new challenges but confident that they will face them together. Their shared hope and love illuminate the uncertainty, transforming it into a space for growth and possibility. Emily's story is one of resilience and transformation. She has risen above the chaos that once threatened to overwhelm her, finding strength in vulnerability and clarity in the midst of change. Her decision to prioritize family and seek balance has allowed her to reclaim joy and purpose, creating a life enriched by meaningful relationships and inner peace. This resolution is not an end but a new beginning, an affirmation that even in the face of uncertainty, hope and love provide the foundation for a fulfilling life. Emily's journey reminds us that true success lies in the courage to make choices that honor our deepest values and the wisdom to embrace life's complexities with grace and openness.